What's up, YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. Broke my freaking oil pan on my Audi again last night on my driveway. Apparently, when I hit one of the potholes in my driveway, because my driveway is just dirt, hit one of the potholes, came down too hard on a rock, and it went right through the bottom of my oil pan. So the oil pan's broken on the freaking Audi again. But in this video, I'm going to show how to replace the entire front suspension on a new style Beetle. It should be the same for convertible and non-convertible. But the first thing that you have to do is you have to remove the windshield wipers, and you have to remove the rain tray where the wipers go, so that you can get to the bolts on the top of the struts. So I'm gonna flip the camera around and show you what I'm working on. So you may be able to see it through here. I don't know if I'll be able to get it to show, but the bolt for the shock is right there. So you have to take this tray off to get to it. Yeah, you can see it right there, but it's just a nut that holds it in. There's not 3 bolts. It's got a nut on the very top that holds the whole shock in, and then it's clamped to the spindle. So I'm gonna go ahead, jack car up. I'm gonna disconnect these before I jack it up. So all you need to do is pull these off. There's a nut underneath here. Pop the windshield wiper arm off, and then this entire piece right here should just be held in with this. Just pull this off, and then this entire plate will pick up. It'll slide off the window and then come out. So I'm gonna get that off, and then I'll put it back. All right, once you get that bolt off, or that nut off, you should just be able to rock these back and forth. Because I got the other one off. I may have to shut the hood to get this one. All right, once you get the arm off, the splash tray is popped into this little groove right here. So you just got to grab it right here in the corner and pull out, and then just keep working your hands across the back of it and popping it out while you're picking it up over this lip. And the whole thing just pops right out. So now that I've got that off, now I can get to the bolt on the top of each strut. So I'm gonna go ahead and jack the car up, taking that off the top of the strut, take the pinch bolt off the spindle, and drop the shock out of here. Remove the strut. You need to remove all the little brackets that are mounted onto here. So you've got this bracket mounted on, you've got this wire hooked into this side, and then hooked in up here on these two. Get all those disconnected. This one had a bolt going through it that's a Torx bit. It was a T25, I think. Yeah, T25. And then I put a screwdriver in between it and pry it up on it to pop it off of there. Get that off, and then you've got a nut right there and a bolt on the other side. I haven't checked to see what size it is. And that'll loosen the clamp on the spindle that's holding the bottom of the strut. And then you'll have a nut up here right there, and then this cap comes off in this upper bushing, and the strut falls out through the bottom. All right, so getting the top nut loose is a little bit more difficult than getting a normal nut loose. So you have to keep the shaft of the strut from spinning. There is a hex in the center of the shaft, and then there's a nut on the outside. You can do this multiple ways. Typically I'll do it with a 13/16 spark plug socket, because it has the hex on the upper part of it. You can put a wrench on that, and you can put Allen wrench through the where the extension or where the drive goes on the socket. But this one, I used a oxygen sensor wrench because it's offset, and I can put a ratchet on it, just because of the location of it. But it's offset, so it makes it a little easier for me to be able to do it. And it's a 22 millimeter. But yeah, get that nut off. I've already got it separated from down here. So once I get that off, the whole shock should come out, or the whole strut, and then I've got a brand new strut right there to go in. So I showed all this in my previous video dealing with the Beetle, but I'm going to show it again because this is the complete front suspension rebuild. So if you're going to replace your inner tie rod ends, you have to cut that inside boot. You don't have to cut the boot, but there's a clamp on that boot. You have to cut that clamp off, and then it unscrews. I'm not replacing these because I'm not going to go do an alignment yet. I gotta wait until I get the oil pan on the Audi fixed before I do that. So I'm gonna come back and do these later because I need to be able to drive this car. So I'm just gonna replace the lower control arm and the struts and the sway bar end link. So the sway bar end link is just 2 bolts, 16 millimeter, 16 millimeter. Take both of those out, put the new one on. Car needs to be on level ground, on the ground when you replace it. You just climb underneath the car and replace it. They're pretty easy. This back bolt is a 18 bolt on the bottom, nut on the top, and it is a separate nut. So you have to hold it with a wrench on the top. And then you've got this other one up here in the front, right there. And that is right here on the front control arm. I'm trying my best to show this to you, but there's the front control arm, there's the bolt. It's a 18 millimeter. And then you've got another bolt or nut right here for the lower ball joint. And that is an 18 millimeter as well. So take that out if you're replacing the ball joint, which I am. If you're not replacing the ball joint, you can take these 3 bolts right here across the bottom off, and the ball joint will stay with the spindle, and just the control arm will come off. All right, so all I did was hit the side of the lower control arm about right here with a hammer, and it knocked the ball joint loose from shock. So I just hit it right here on the side, maybe 2 or 3 times, and then it popped loose. So now I can take that nut off and the whole control arm will come out. So let me get that nut off and then I'll show you how the control arm comes out. All right, once you get the lower ball joint to separate, the whole arm, just basically you pull it out from the back and then wiggle it out from the front once you get it completely separated from the lower ball joint. It just slides out. Slide the new one in and put the bolts in, and we'll be good to go. All right, so now I've got everything back together. The only thing that I don't have hooked up is a sway bar end link, because I have to have the car on the ground and on that way the wheels are level. Typically what I do is I put it up on my ramps so that I can get underneath the car to get to them. But as long as both of the wheels are at the same height, you can do it. But got everything bolted back together. The only thing that I did not change is the inner and outer tie rod ends, which they're pretty basic. Just take that nut off, knock the end link out. Like I said earlier, cut the clamp off the inner boot, pull the boot back, break it loose, and it'll unscrew from the inside of the steering rack. Pull the whole thing out, replace it all as one unit, put new clamps on it. Got the top of the shock tower all tightened up, ready to go. So now I'm going to move over to the other side, get it done, and I'll show you the end result. And for anybody that's curious why I'm replacing the struts, this is why. That's the top of the strut, and it should be down against the body. So I noticed when I pulled that one loose from the spindle, I could rock it around. And so I came over here and looked at this one, and it's the bushing at the top must be compressed or have dropped down the shaft or something like that, because this is not providing the correct pressure against the top of the body anymore. But I'm having real bad popping and shit whenever I'm going over bumps. That explains it, because the whole freaking suspension's popping up and down. So after doing the front suspension on this thing, I did realize that the only reason that I was able to do my struts without removing the lower control arms is because they were already, the lower control arm bushing was already broken on the driver's side. When I went back to do the passenger side, because I had already replaced the lower control arm, I actually had to unbolt the lower control arm so that the spindle could swing down far enough to get the strut out of there. So that's a little tidbit information that will be very useful when you're trying to replace these struts. You have to unbolt the lower control arm if it's got good bushings in it. If it's got bad bushings in it, or ones that are on the way out and you push it down too far, it will break them. So if your bushings are not damaged and not broken, unbolt it so you don't break them. Other than that, it's pretty much straightforward. I am going to show you the kind of spring compressor and process for replacing the struts if you wanted to just replace the struts, but I didn't do that on this vehicle. But I'm going to show you the correct spring compressor here in a second. Okay, so if I was going to wind up replacing these, just the struts and reusing the coil springs, this is the kind of compressor that I would use. So I bought this one from Harbor Freight. I've had it for several years. They're relatively inexpensive, but it just slides apart. You've got pins to lock it onto your springs, and then it'll adjust in and out for different spring widths, and it'll adjust up and down to compress the springs. So you just pop the thing on there, A little easier said than done, but just hook it on there. If I can get that one to go in. Oh, it went past the pin. I gotta fix the freaking pin on it. I haven't used this thing in about a year, so I didn't realize it was past the pin on that one. Alright. Now I should be able to get it. So you just hook those in, put your pins in to lock it onto the spring, and then just tighten this bolt down and it'll compress the spring. Once you compress the spring, then you take your other nut off of here and all this will come off, and then the spring will come off, and then you can replace the strut. So, and it's January 1st, 2024. Happy New Year to everybody watching this video. Hope everybody had a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. Really appreciate everybody tuning in throughout the whole year. I know here at the end of the year, I kind of got a little lax on the videos. And to be honest, it's because of my divorce being settled just a couple months ago, the weather being the way that it is. And I don't know, I've been going through some mental stuff. So, I'm going to be getting back on the Veloster swap. Matter of fact, I'm going to start working on it right here as soon as I finish editing this video. I'm going to start trying to continue working on that, and doing a little bit more work to the Lexus, try and get it knocked out. And then I'm actually going to my Impala, my 94 Impala right here. I'm going to pull the motor, re-gasket the entire engine, take the transmission out, and I'm actually going to pay somebody to put some Redline racing clutches in it. Just because I don't have a clean work area to do a transmission, and it needs to be clean to do it. I can do it, but I don't have anywhere clean to do it. Plus, it's really freaking messy when you do a transmission, so I just don't want to mess with it. I'll pull it out and I'll take it to somebody to get it rebuilt. But I'm thinking about daily in that car until I can get my new Audi. So I'm working on doing some financial stuff in the background, dealing with the house and my other finances. So trying to work it out where I can buy a new, to me, 2016 either S4 or S5, and then I'll drive the Impala until I get the S4 or the S5, and then the Impala will only be a weekend vehicle. Because like I said in some of my other videos, my son is getting the Audi and the Beetle is for my daughter. So that leaves me with the Impala, the 73 Beetle, which is on the other side of the Impala, and the Veloster, which is completely torn apart right now because I'm doing the rear wheel drive swap. So I got a lot of things in the works. Still got the Carmen Ghia around back. I probably won't mess with that for a couple of years, but I do have that Carmen Ghia to work on, and then got the Lexus to work on. So hoping to pick up a couple other projects this year. I'm actually thinking about building another Audi, doing a B7 this time, or doing a B5. I don't know, one or the other. But I'm thinking about doing either a V10 swap or a W12, or not W12. Yeah, W12. So I don't know. Trying to debate on what I want to do with this, because there's other guys that have done the V10 swap and have done the W swap, and their cars are cool and everything, and I want to give them props where it's due. One of the guys' names is Dale. I don't know, I can't say his last name, I don't know how to pronounce it, but he's the one that did the W12 B7 Avant. And then Martin Harp is the one that did the V10 swap, and really dig his content. So if you guys are really into the Audi stuff, Martin Harp does a lot of really cool Audi stuff, so check him out and give him a follow and a like. I don't know the guy, but he does really good work, so just want to share that with the Audi community. But yeah, hope this helped out the community for the Volkswagens, if you needed to redo your front suspension on a Volkswagen. Other than that, I'd like to say Happy New Year to everybody, and hopefully this will be a year for the records, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great one.